In this video, we're going to cover one of the most interesting crypto robotic teams I've seen so far. They're doing some pretty huge things, and their team is called Reborn. Now let's talk about why Reborn is going to change the robotics game, both in Web2 robotics as well as utilize crypto for some really interesting aspects. So the problem with robotics today is that AI is going physical, but robots are still struggling in the real world. And that's down to a few issues. There's the data bottleneck, there's the model bottleneck, and there's the embodiment bottleneck. And a big issue here is a lot of these robotic companies essentially building these robotic models, basically how the robots behave from scratch. There's no shared foundation. So everybody's starting over from scratch. It takes forever. And you don't really have that foundational kind of like model that really can lead to innovation. Now, if you think about LLMs, you have Claude, you have ChatGPT, and you have a bunch of products built on top of that. So you have Cursor, you have Replit, you have all of these products that are using that, and that's allowing people to build all these unique use cases. With robotics, we don't really have that yet, and that's a lot of what Reborn's trying to solve. So the three gaps here are the data gaps. So there's a lack of large-scale, real-world data sets for robotics, and this is a major problem because you basically have to go and gather a bunch of data yourself, right? Like in LLMs, you basically have all of this internet data you can easily ingest. Robotics, you don't have that. So you're starting from scratch, and building up those data points takes forever. The second gap is the model gap. There aren't really any great models that deal well with unfamiliar settings. And this is a huge problem because essentially these teams are building out these models from scratch, and they are not the best because they're dealing with limited data and they're all starting from zero. The third is embodiment gap, right? So it's difficulty applying one gap across diverse robotic hardware because obviously hardware can change. The screws and the levers all are different, so that can also be an issue. Now, Reborn's vision to solve all of this is to build shared infrastructure for general purpose robotics. So for one, they're using human behavior to really train robotic intelligence, right? That's adaptable. And then the third piece is they're really focused on a community-first, bottom-up approach in terms of scaling all of this. One of the core solutions they have on the infrastructure side is robotic foundation models called RFM. So they're basically building on these foundational models for multimodal AI, for real-time vision, language, and motion. This will generalize across tasks, environments, and different types of robots, right? So it's like a foundational robotic model, and they're using a ton of data to build this. And the whole goal here is to scale embodied general purpose intelligence, right? So instead of just them building it just for, let's say their own robots or their own robotics, etc., this is more an idea of like, hey, here's how we're going to enable other robotic companies to just have this strong foundation to build from. So how are they powering RFM, right? So they are basically building a real-world learning engine that's powered by everyday human behavior. Rather than rushing towards training, like, hey, the AGI of robotics, or, just having this approach of like, let's just gather as much data by ourselves as we can, they're taking a more progressive data-first path, right? So what they're doing here is really focusing on crowd-powered data collection, and that leads to more robust and adaptable AI because people just find ways to break stuff, especially when random people contributing data because they think it's cool, right? And then they're also taking human behavior and turning that into basically this adaptive robotic intelligence. So it's not just robots doing things and they're turning that into data sets, they're actually having humans do things and turning that into essentially training for AI. And that's actually a very effective way of doing it. It's like basically mimicking humans. So one way they're doing that is they basically have this embodied vlog system, right? Where users film real world tasks in first person. Right? So they're like film themselves going and, cutting stuff in the kitchen. And this is basically video training data. And it also has like that motion data as well. And then each video really improves like that data set, right? So that's one way they're doing it. The second is they have this device called a ReboCap. It's a $200 motion capture suit for full body tracking. There's no studio needed. It works at home. It works at, like in VR, it works wherever. And it trains robots to move like real people. And this is just a device they have. They already have it in the hands of a ton of people. So really the other big piece here is just using VR gaming as a data engine. Gameplay becomes motion training data, and this captures hand-object interaction in 3D. So this is fun for users, and it's also very high signal for robots. Across all of these different pieces, you have the data gap, the model gap, and the embodiment gap. And they're kind of tackling those with these different, I guess, like mini areas of expertise. So there's the embodied vlog, which is gathering a ton of vision data for for training, basically mimicking humans. There's the mocap data, right? Like that's actually really valuable. ReboCap at $200 is a really great way to distribute that. There's VR gaming. So you're taking that fun gameplay simulation into real useful data, right? They are also going to be expanding into tactile feedback and robotic foundation models, right? Which are going to be like pretty big pieces. So what Reborn is doing is turning messy human motion into the foundation of robotic intelligence. One interaction, one data set at a time. So it's tackling some very big problems. I think this is a team that potentially could be one of the biggest robotics teams in the whole AI space, right? Not just in crypto. And there are elements of this that have crypto elements, but realistically, I would say their main strategy is just more focused on the Web 2 side of things right now and just getting people to contribute and basically give as much of the data as possible. But I do see a place in the future where they will be launching a network, because a lot of this just makes sense to launch a network, and their name is Reborn Network. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things happening there. Go subscribe to our Substack. Go read the full Reborn deep dive. This video is just like a super surface level overview, and really the in-depth understanding is in this Substack. Make sure to subscribe, like, give a comment, and I'll see you soon.